So today's session, and I really want this to be a real open conversation, and I'm going to be honest with you. Go ahead and say to yourself right now that, hey, Cleve is going to talk to me about a lot of things that I'd rather not even think about, but I'm going to accept it and I'm going to be open minded and I'm going to listen because one of the issues that I've seen in real estate over the years, and Janice, you tell me if you see this as well, is that most of the people feel like they're literally starting over every single January the 1st. And they're like, I got to do this all again. And I personally, and this is just me, I mean, like I might be totally wrong. I don't think I am, but I think it's because they do not do the right things, the things that seem too monotonous, the things that seem a little bit boring, the things that are not as exciting as necessarily going on a listing or a buyer appointment. They don't do those things the way they should. So this is all about expanding your vision beyond 2026, but more specifically taking what you're doing in 2026 to ensure that you're ready for 2027. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. This is part three of a three webinar series. The first webinar was very simple, and the concept was meet people where they are. Have you ever had a conversation, Ed, with somebody and you knew at the end of the conversation that person knew absolutely nothing more about you and your specific situation at the end of the conversation than they did at the beginning? And how did that make you feel? Come off mute and tell us, does that make you feel like, hey, this is my person, this is the person I need to move forward with?
No, that's somebody you probably don't want to work with.
Somebody that you might actually purposefully run away from,
Hmm.
meaning I'm not going to do this. And so you have to meet people where they are. You have to see them. They have to feel seen. You have to understand them. And you have to remember that everybody has a Beauty and the Beast story. And the Beauty and the Beast story is here's the way I feel today, and I feel stuck. Here's how I would like to be able to feel, and here's what I'd like to do for tomorrow. And just remember, when you're having communication with somebody, they have their own hero's journey. They are somewhere today and they want to be somewhere different tomorrow. And as you have conversations with people, especially in real estate, Adam, you have the ability to change the trajectory of someone's life because where we live is like the most important. I mean, and it's not as important as family, but where we live is like everything when it comes to our lives. And so we have the ability to change things in a big way. And then the last thing we talked about in that first webinar was that we have to determine who we are. We have to be who we want to be before we can do the things we want to do so that we can have the things we want to have. So if you're listening and you're a team leader or you're responsible for others who are trying to convert leads and you're not pleased with their level or their ability to convert, it's because they're trying either to have what they want to have or do the things they need to do before they determine how they need to show up and who they need to be. And by that, what I mean is very simple. I either care about Taylor and her future needs or I do not. And if I do, then I can show up in a way for her. So when I say be, I mean I care. I want to understand her situation. I want to understand that, you know what, maybe this is not the right time for her to sell or the right time to buy. Maybe she should do this or do that. I really want to understand. And so when it comes to the be, do, have, we have to show up with a servant's heart before we will find it in our day to do the things that we need to do. And only after we start doing the things we really need to do will we have the things we want to have. Adam, you and I had a conversation yesterday about an agent working on your team, certainly not going to name any names. You know this person has potential. You know that they have all of the right elements, meaning, you know, the look and the ability to communicate and all of that, but they're just simply not moving forward. And I want you to know it's because they do not understand that they have to show up in the market with the servant's heart. So when they're making prospecting phone calls, which is really where most people fall short, and they're not doing that, it's because their heart is not right. It's because they're not calling for the right intentions. And I don't mean this person is not a good person. What I mean is they're prospecting for the purpose of finding somebody to help buy or sell a house. And what they need to be is looking for people who have problems. That was webinar number one. Webinar number two was building trust and connection. And the messages were that we build trust with other people by having authentic communication with them and being real. Then Verl went in and talked about how we can use shift modules to communicate with people. And he used a couple of examples. One of them was new construction. Someone says, I can't afford to buy in today's market. We say, Janice, I totally understand that. And I bet that makes you feel frustrated in many, many ways. I don't know if you've ever thought about being able to take advantage of a builder or a new construction home in today's market. But if you'd like, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what that would look like and the opportunities you might have in that market. I'm meeting her where she is. I'm seeing her. I'm understanding her problems, and I'm offering her the opportunity to look at something different. And it's remember with these shift modules, it's not either don't do something or do something. It is either don't do something or move forward exploring the shift module so that you can get an understanding of whether or not that other option is something you need to do. So I'm not asking Janice to make a decision until after. I'm asking her to make a decision on whether or not she wants to hear the information in the shift module. And hopefully all of you got those shift modules, but I'm asking her if she wants to hear the information before we actually go into it. We talked about emotional transformation. We were trying to take somebody from a negative emotion of feeling stuck to a positive emotion of feeling free or in charge or whatever. Then Verl went into his stupid goals framework. Does anybody know why Verl refers to them as stupid goals? Now, stupid actually stands for something, and I don't remember exactly what it stands for. But where it came from is these are the goals that when you tell somebody else you have that goal, they think it's stupid. That's how you know it's a stupid goal. So, Adam, you tell me something, and I go, oh, please, there is no way you can do that. Now, you got a stupid goal, and it's probably a good one. So, we don't need other people to buy into it and say, hey, we can do, you can do everything you think you can. There's going to be very few people in the world that will do that. So, you'll know you're on the right track when someone says it could be stupid. So, today, I'm going to talk about 5 proven strategies that you can use as an agent, a team leader who are really tired of starting over from scratch every single January. When you go through this yearly reset cycle, it really causes problems. It causes you to have anxiety about your next deal or your next year. It causes you to really have a burnout. It causes you to keep trying to go back and reinvent the wheel. It causes you to lose confidence in your identity. And in many cases, because we're not focused on creating a business for January of 2027, in January of 2026, because most of our problems are internal problems. Most of our issues are caused by the way we look at the world, by the way we react to things, by the way we either create strategies or don't have strategies. And these are things that have to be put in place. You also, when you get desperate, you start spending money on new marketing methods every single year because we're trying to solve our problem, when really what we should have been working on is solving the problem all the entire year. And then you have all of these emergency expenses, without any reserve. So just remember, when you're not doing the things today, and I would say the number one thing that people do not do that they need to do is they need to live and or die by their CRM. Every communication needs to be in it. All of the follow up cadences need to be followed. Everything needs to be there. That will have the biggest impact. And notice at the bottom of the screen there, it says, without systems, you don't own a business. You own a job that owns you. Adam, congratulations. You got yourself a job that owns you, brother. Not that that's the way you are, but that's just like a depressing place to be. So the solution are these 5 different steps. We're going to talk first about mastering your CRM. Then we're going to talk about humanizing the follow up. We're going to talk about really transforming it from guesswork to science, because guesswork is, if I just keep calling enough people, I'm going to find somebody that's ready, willing, and able to move forward buying a home. And that is going to be great. And you know what? Sometimes you will. But those are way fewer and farther between than people who want to do something but feel stuck. Then we're going to go through and talk about building a relationship engine where you can keep up with the 50 people that are most important to you, that you already know and like and trust you, who will send business your way. Then we'll dig into developing proprietary language. If Adam says something, it should sound different than when Ed says it, than when Janice says it, than when Julie says it, than when Fred says it, than when Sam says it. It needs to sound unique. So if you are looking to buy a condo in Midtown Atlanta, you need to use a very specific process that is unique to Zach and his team, and that's where Adam works. And you need to know that you're getting something unique, because there's very much value in the proprietary language systems that you use. If someone works with my team, we use two different systems. One is called the Sure Home Buying System. And if they work with someone on our team, we use the Sure Home Buying System. We're the only real estate broker in the state of Georgia who uses that system. The reason we're the only broker who uses it is because I'm the only one who owns the name. If you work with us on the seller side, we use the Sure Home Selling System, which means you're getting something different, something you can't get other places. Can they go and get all of those individual pieces from another broker? Yes. Will another broker deliver all of those pieces? Probably not. And then in the last piece, and it is by far the most boring and the one that people hate the most, it is you got to install some financial controls. You got to run a business with clarity and stability. So let's jump into this first section, and it's really all about mastering your CRM with a simple, ritualized system. This is not a system that is new to all of you. This is a system that is going to be something you've seen before. Most agents literally treat their CRM like a junk drawer. They open it up, throw something in there. They have things on post-it notes or 3x5 cards or legal pads or whatever. And the solution really is that system that is simple, and it is almost a ritual, so that you're doing the same thing over and over. Let's talk real quickly before we jump into the details why a CRM doesn't work for most people. And I want to talk about mindset for just a second. Julie and I both have a friend whose name is Debbie. Debbie has been on my team for 15 years, 14 years, a long time. And Debbie has made a lot of money over the years. What Debbie loves most in the world, in my opinion, she loves her friends more than anything. But what she enjoys going and doing is she loves doing horseback riding expeditions in amazing places all over the world. And one year she decided that she was going to go to Spain and she was going to ride horses. And she was riding horses on a horse trail in the mountains in Spain. Now, I can't imagine anything that I would prefer to do less than to be on the back of a horse on the side of a mountain in Spain, but she loves it. But when she came back to the US after a trip, and this was 2019, right before the pandemic, she was over it. I asked her how her trip was, and she said it was awful. And I said, well, why was it awful? She said, I could not stop my brain from thinking about all the things that I should have done or needed to have done back at home. So I'm on horseback riding on the side of a mountain in Spain thinking, oh my gosh, I forgot to call Amanda about the blankety blank. And when she came back, she said, no more, no more. I will use my CRM. And now, is Debbie perfect, Julie? No, she's not perfect. Does she think she's perfect? No. But does she get in and work her CRM? Absolutely. So the things that I want you to be aware of, and here's Janice, just so you know, when you go download the free resources, you're going to get a full copy of this presentation in PDF form. And notice there's no markings on there that show that this is Workman or Cleaves or anything else. So you can take it and use it to, teach your agents. Would that be helpful, Janice, if you had access to all of these that you could use for your agents? And so take what you want, use what you want, throw the other stuff away. I don't care, just as long as you're using it as helpful. People have too many categories. People don't have all of the information. We don't have all the information we need on prospects. We don't have very clear next steps. What's next step? And the system should not only tell you what the next step is, Once you understand how they're categorized, the system should already have assigned to-do items for you for either the next 6 months or the next 12 months. If someone is a B, ready to buy or sell in less than 90 days, they need to have a full 6-month plan already launched. So you don't ever have to think about it again when you need to be communicating with them. And if they're a C, you need to have a full 12-month plan launched for communication twice a month. When you have a lack of a ritual, almost a spiritual commitment to using your CRM, then the database gets ignored. And in many cases, our biggest problem is we have no accountability. We use a system called double looping. We don't use it as often as we should on my team. But in my opinion, when you open your CRM for a prospect file, you should ask yourself 5 questions very quickly. Number 1, is this prospect categorized correctly? Half of them, the answer to that will be no. And Adam, I'll tell you, when you get everybody categorized correctly in your database, it's way easier to communicate with them in a way that is meaningful to them. I know this person's a buyer. I know they're more than 90 days out. It's easy to determine the communication pattern for them. Number 2, are they receiving phone calls, text messages, and emails, and is everything logged into the CRM? Number 3, do they have an upcoming to-do item and no outstanding to-do items? Number 4, are they set up on an e-alert? This is for seller prospects and buyer prospects. Everybody should be able to be set up on an e-alert or some type of listing search system in your CRM. Everybody. So Adam, if you sold them a house 6 months ago, you pull up that CRM. If they're not set on an e-alert, you set them up on an e-alert for their condo building to make sure they see everything that goes on in that building, even though they already own one there, because that is meaningful information to them. And then the 5th and final piece, and Adam, I know you're in the process of changing CRMs, and your CRM is going to do this for you. You have to be able to see the prospect searching activity without them necessarily knowing. And so the 5th piece is you have to know if they've done any online activity that indicates their level of interest is increasing. So Janice, if someone looks at the same property from 4 different locations, that's probably an indication that they have something there that they like. And one of the things that we do is when we have that B prospect or that less than 90 days, we're just simply following up on a specific property and a specific feature. So remember, the most important things you want from people when you're having conversations from them is not, I want you to move forward. No, 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 no. We don't need them to want to move forward. We need them to give us a clear understanding of these 3 things. Number 1, what is their timeline? Because Adam, they're either ready to buy or sell now, ready to buy or sell within 90 days, ready to buy or sell in longer than 90 days. Adam, if you went to a closing today, this afternoon, and they closed on their condo, is that person an A, a B, or a C?
C.
They're already a C, because we know the next time they'll buy or sell is longer than 90 days. It might be 12 years, but that means we need to figure out a way to communicate with that person every 30 days for the next 12 years. I know that sounds overwhelming, but if the CRM is reminding you to do it, you can do it through text messages and all kinds of ways that make it easy. We need to understand their motivation. Is it a death in the family? Is it a divorce? Is it graduation from college? Is it moving for physical reasons or family reasons? Or what is it? Are they having a baby? Are they being a baby? Whatever the heck it is, what is their motivation for moving? And if you don't understand that, you have a very hard time connecting with them in a way that allows you to move them forward. And then you must always understand what the next step is, and not the next step that Julie thinks is the next step. The next step that Julie and her prospect, Sam, think is the next step. So you can't follow up with Sam in 2 weeks because you've categorized them as a B in the system, and you know you need to follow up every couple weeks unless you've had a conversation with Sam about how this is going to work. So timeline, motivation, and next steps, all very important. Now, this is something that you've all seen. This is the ABCs of lead management. You've heard me alluding to this as I've gone through the presentation so far. Someone is either a hot, which means they are ready to buy or sell now, and you must always have an appointment with them. So your cadence for communication is daily or as needed until you set an appointment. You keep communicating with them every day until you set an appointment with them. A B is a warm prospect. This is someone buying or selling in 90 days or less. You follow up twice per month during the weeks of the 1st and the 15th. Write these two words down on a piece of paper. When it's a B, they get a specific follow-up. Anybody that's looking to sell or buy in the next 90 days, they are paying attention to what's happening in the market around them. Would everybody agree? And if they're paying attention to what's happening in the market around them, then you want to talk about the market around them. So it goes like this. Hey, Janice, Cleve calling from Southeast Michigan. Tecumseh? That's close enough, right? Tecumseh? Like the engine Tecumseh, like that. So I'm calling from blankety blank in Tecumseh, and I wanted to make sure that you saw the property at 1234 First Street. I know that that's the property I'm going to talk to them about because in my CRM I can see that's the property they looked at 3 times in the last 3 days. So I'm going to find the same property they just found. And I'm going to say, I want to make sure you saw that property at 1234 First Street. You may remember it is the one that has kind of the rust color red front door that has the amazing play set in the backyard. I just wanted to see if you have any interest in going to see it. You're less than 90 days out. And now you're getting this feeling that I'm trying to find listings for you and I'm trying to help drive that process forward because in many cases, home buyers feel like it is their responsibility to find the properties and not yours. That's a B. A C is a long-term follow-up. This is someone who's more than 90 days out. The calling is once a month. Normally we do it during the weeks of the 8th. And your focus here is relationship maintenance. I want you to write this down for a C. I don't need to educate them. I don't need to train them. I don't need to try to sell them. I need to make sure they remember 2 words. The first one is Cleve, and the next one is Gaddis. That's it. And so I'm sending them items of value for the specific purpose of them recognizing, oh, when I get something from this first name Cleve, last name Gaddis person, he's sending me something trying to help me. So write down the words market general. I'm sending market general information. What's happening in the market? What's working? What's not working? What's predicted for interest rates? What's new coming in around the corner from where Julie thinks she might want to live? What's the new condo building that's going up, Adam, right there at 14th Street or whatever it is? It's market general information. The information does not matter because they're not going to care about. Some people will care about the information, but most of us are too busy to worry about when some people send something. But if I continued to every month get something from Julie that was designed to educate me on the market and things that I needed to know, I promise you I would not forget her name. I would not forget her name. And when it was time to buy or sell, I would remember that she went out of her way to serve me. So you're categorizing them as A, B, or C. Now, remember, you have got to create something that creates a feeling of responsibility, that creates a feeling of accountability to other people. So, ideally, the best thing you could do, Janice and Ed, in your office is to create a time when all of your people come together to make calls at the same time. And maybe it's only for an hour. And maybe it's on Zoom and people mute themselves or whatever the heck it looks like. But you need to create some accountability. You need to have some learning and some trying going on. You need to increase the energy. In most cases, Julie, there's no energy around prospecting. Oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. I don't want to prospect. Create some energy around it, and you got to celebrate the results. So when you get your group together, Janice, I see you have a whiteboard back there behind you, and I'm sure you have many more of those either in your office or home or whatever. And you need to have a clean, clear whiteboard. And you need to write down the name of everybody who's there making phone calls. And you need to track the following information: the number of calls made, the number of conversations had, the number of appointments set, and the potential dollar volume or sales volume of that appointment. So Julie made 25 phone calls. She had 4 conversations. She set an appointment to meet with someone who needs to sell a year from now, but their house is probably worth 500,000. So it goes whatever I said, 25 phone calls, it says 4 conversations, it says 1 appointment, and it shows 500,000. And your people will start to catch the spirit. As leaders, and I'm guessing that most of you on here are leaders, some of you are probably agents, and this works for you as well. When we start to see what happens with the collective, we start to buy into it. We start to get the spirit. And that is so very, very important. So it should be the same time, same day, every single week, no exceptions. Sometimes do it in the evening. Best times to call 9 to 11 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. Always has been that way. Best times to call. Have people show up at the office from 5 to 6, make phone calls, have a little pizza, and everybody hit the road after you make the phone calls. We have got to get into the prospecting business. I want you all to remember the 7% rule. 7% of the people in your database will sell or buy in the next 12 months. If you're new and you have 200 contacts, I'm telling you there's 14 transactions there. If you're becoming a superstar and you've got 500, there's 35 transactions there. And if you have 1,000 contacts, there's 70. And if you're a team like my team and you have 28,000 people in your database, I'll let you do the math and figure out how many people are already in the database that will buy or sell in the next 12 months. But sometimes we just can't bring ourselves to make the phone calls that we're supposed to make. Because remember, it's not about trying to get them in a position to buy or sell. Life will get them in a position to buy or sell, not you. Some kind of life change, I know Julie decided, you know what? I don't want to live my life this way, working my other stuff. And it's scary to get back in real estate, but that's what I'm going to do. It had nothing to do with the market. It only had to do with some need or some change or something that Julie had. And that's the way your buyer and seller prospects are. So the question I have for you is, are you even remotely staying closely enough in contact to be in the right place so you can capture your share of the business? And if you ever want to have some fun, open up your iPhone or your Android and see how many contacts you have. And let's say, Adam, you have 1,000 contacts in there. 70 of those people are going to buy or sell something in the next year. Very powerful. So here's why CRM Mastery breaks the cycle. It gives you a clear visibility into future production. What if I said to you, Julie, instead of it being guesswork today, you're going to be able to, if you do these things, predict the future. You're going to be able to predict what's going to happen in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter of 2026 and in all quarters of 2027. You'll know who's moving and when. You'll have proactive communication with them about specific data, and you'll start to finally build that predictable pipeline. And I don't want anybody to raise their hands, but my question for you is, do you ever feel anxiety about where your next commission check is coming from? And if you do, it has nothing to do with what's happening in your life that day at that moment. It has everything to do with what's happening in your life, or I should say, and I'm going to be very bold and in your face, the lack of what's supposed to happening. That's what causes the anxiety. So just remember, you got to turn that CRM into a ritual. The second thing we want to talk about is humanizing your follow-up and conversion process. Now, I wrote that bottom part of this slide just as big as I can possibly write it. We don't have a lead generation problem. We have a lead conversion problem. And the reality is, we don't have a lead generation problem. We have an attitude problem when it comes to the things we need to do to convert our leads. We think as real estate agents in many cases, and if I'm projecting on you and this bothers you, just please accept my apologies. But what we're thinking is, I'm going to call this person and they need to be, we're driving over to do a showing and we're thinking, oh my God, please God, let them buy, let them buy. Oh my God, let them buy. I need a product. I'm telling you, you do that, your mindset is wrong. And what we need to have the mindset is, hey, I hope I can find this person that I can help, can truly help, that they'll be open and let down their guard and have a conversation with me about the things that are important to them so that I can help them in a way that makes sense for them. There are no bad leads, just ineffective agents. Now, let me qualify that. There are leads that come in and have contact information that is not valid. Okay, that's a bad lead. But if you have valid contact information, they're no bad leads. You're just ineffective. And I know that that is in your face, but the quality of the lead is determined by the skill and the will of the agent. And if you don't have the will and you don't have much skill, you're going to have a hard time converting. Every bad lead, every lead you look at and say is bad, it's a skill gap in disguise, meaning it's something that you need to know how to do differently that you really, really, really need to work on. And your conversion rates really reflect your personal capabilities. And blaming any lead source or anything, I know it protects your ego, but in many cases it kills your growth. So let me mention something, and this is the way I want you to look at it. Remember this: serving is greater than selling, and leading through service is greater than serving. So if you look at these whatever their diamonds are, whatever they are, if you look at them, then selling shouldn't even be there. Like, who cares about the selling? Because it's all about serving and leading. We do care about the selling and we need the closings, but if our intention is to lead with selling, you're going to alienate a lot of people. But if your goal is to focus on serving and being able to lead them, and you cannot lead someone unless you understand what their problems are. So Workman pushes a system called serve regardless of opportunity. And if your agents, Adam, are not making prospecting calls correctly, I'll bet you $100 it's because their mindset is in selling, not in serving, and certainly not in leading, because leading causes all kind of problems. Because, oh my gosh, I don't even know what they're supposed to do. How in the world am I supposed to tell them what they're supposed to do or give them the options? Leading is about making someone understand very clearly what their choices are. You can do this or you can do this. If you do this, here's what could happen. If you do that, here's what could happen. Now you, Mr. or Mrs. Adult, need to make the decision. The pressure is not on Taylor. Taylor does not need to be making decisions for me. In fact, the matter is, if she tried to make decisions for me, she would upset me. And I would decide that I didn't want to be there. And the truth is, if I started making decisions for her, I would upset her, and she'd be like, okay, fine, but I'm not going to listen to you. But if I was serving her and then trying to lead her so she understood her options so she could make the best decisions, she would pay attention to me all day long. In fact, if she thought I cared enough about her, she would ignore things going on her cell phone so she could listen to what I have to say. And that's what we need with people, is we need their undivided attention. Now remember, and here's the problem: 7% of communication is verbal, 38% is vocal, your voice, but 58% is visual. So, Adam, if we know that 58% of conversion is visual, and we know that we can only have visual communication with somebody when we are actually on Zoom with them where they can see us, or with them face to face, then the purpose of all of our communication at the initial stages is to get face to face with them. End of story. And don't forget, Julie, that 38% of communication comes from your voice, comes from your feeling of confidence, comes from your feeling of being interested in them, or excited or enthusiastic, or maybe not enthusiastic, maybe sad or angry because of what's happening, because it has to match what they're looking for. So just remember, the words you say are not nearly as important as how you say them, and them being able to see your body language. Body language is huge. So as we build rapport, it's simple. This is stuff you all know. You got to show some genuine interest. I get through with a conversation with Adam. He understands very clearly whether or not I was interested in him in that conversation, and me and him and me. You got to work to find common ground, shared experiences, maybe something that creates familiarity or makes you more comfortable. You got to mirror and match them. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I can just kind of confess something, I'm terrible at mirroring and matching. In other words, I can be way too much when what somebody needs is less. And we need to be very sensitive to how they're speaking to us and how they're acting. And we need to mirror and match that. And we need to be very natural and personal. So the scripts are important, but only because they teach you what to say so you can actually focus on what the consumer is saying. Meaning, I already know what to say, and then you can listen for the purpose of learning and understanding to the consumer. These are all very important. So remember, you must listen with empathy. You must listen for the purpose of uncovering real needs. And you must offer some type of acknowledgement for what they say. So if Paul Sessom says, I can't do this for this reason, I cannot immediately go into all the reasons that I think he can. Because we want to talk about something that will alienate him, that will make him think I have no use for Cleve at all moving forward because he's not helping me. Just ignore what they say. I grew up in the direct sales business, and when somebody gave us an objection, we had three amazing ways to solve those objections fast. And the truth is we had three ways to just kind of shove it down their throat, and it worked in the 80s and 90s. But that doesn't work today. So have empathy, uncover their real needs, and acknowledge the problems they have. And if someone says something to you and your immediate thought is, oh, they need to be thinking about it this way, get a hold of yourself, acknowledge where they are, meet them where they are, and make them feel seen and heard. And you'll notice a huge, huge difference. So humanize follow up, even though it's systematic and confident. When you have that human connection, it removes fear on the other side. And more importantly, it removes fear on your side. When Julie is worried about connecting with another person as a human being, she sees value in all of the outbound calls that she's making, and she puts together a repeatable process, and she increases her conversion rates. So the old way gives you anxiety and fear of rejection, and you have these improvised conversations, and you don't even know where in the heck you've wound up in the conversation or how you got here. I've had conversations with people, Ed, and at the end, I'm thinking, what did I say? Where in the world did that come from? That was like, that was rude, or that was insensitive, or that was over the top, or whatever. And they only lead to lower conversion rates. The list that I gave you earlier in the call, it's right here for you. So you'll have it. This is a double looping system. Is everybody categorized correctly? Are the phone calls, texts, and emails logged into the CRM? Do they have an upcoming to-do item and no outstanding to-do items? Are they set up on a listing, an automated listing alert? And have they done any online activity indicating any additional interest? So remember, when you prospect, you're trying to understand and see the human on the other end of the line. When you send someone a text, you are trying to connect with another human. They need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to be understood. And that's what we're doing when we humanize conversations. First thing, we got to master that CRM. Second thing, we got to care about all of the people we're calling to, if I had to summarize it simply. Third thing is we need to build a relationship engine. Hopefully, I'm not going too fast. I'm going really fast, but I've got a lot to cover. And hopefully, you'll have a lot of things that you can use in 2026 to train your people. But you got to build a relationship engine. All of you have heard of our Top 50 program. Just know that the people you have existing relationships are worth like their weight in gold compared to new leads. They're low effort, they're high return, they have a low maintenance cost, repeat business is very high, referral potential is high, and you're really serving your sphere. So, in many cases, we don't need to totally stop chasing the strangers, but we need to stop chasing strangers in lieu of serving our sphere. And so many people say, oh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to call them. I don't want to bother them. You're not trying to bother them. You're trying to give them service and provide them leadership in that process. That's it. So I'm not trying to sell Janice something when I stop by and see her while I'm in Michigan. I'm trying to build my relationship with her. I'm trying to understand her more. And I don't care what anybody says, that leaves a lasting impression on other people when you go out of your way to do something for them. They never forget it. And all that stuff is so very, very important. So the top 50 system, who do you know? And this is 50 people. How much do they like me? If they don't like me very much, I would say, Adam, leave them off the list if they don't like you very much. And then do they have the capacity to refer, or are they likely to move or refer? So past clients that you worked with that you just loved, and people who are in your centers of influence or sphere of influence, or family and friends, people who actively support you, or any professional connections. I'll bet, Adam, you've got a lender or a termite inspector or a whatever it is that probably would feel obligated to send you some referrals if you put them into a system and started working them in a very organized way. And certainly anybody that has ever given you a referral referral in the past. Julie, I know you've gotten some referrals since you started in this business. Those are the people that have to start out on your top 50 list because those already know, they already like you, and they already trust you. And these 50 people become your primary focus on relationship building. Like these are the people who you want to see the most. When you schedule some monthly real human, here's that human word in there again. Human means communicating with somebody with empathy for what's going on in them, being specifically interested in them. We're trying to see their humanity. And when you do that, you're doing personal phone calls, not necessarily about business. You're sending handwritten notes or cards. You're doing an in-person coffee or a lunch, and you're doing a thoughtful gift or giving them some type of resource that they can use, or you're making a helpful introduction to a new plumber or a new lawn care company or whatever it is. And every person in your top 50 list, and those of you who are Workman clients, you already have access to the top 50 program. Those of you who are not Workman clients, no problem. Just create a list of 50. Check off every single month whether or not you have any kind of the conversation that fits the gold standard category here, and just check it off and you watch. You probably won't get 50 referrals in the first year, but you might get 20, and you might get 30 the second year and 50 the third year and 60 or 70 the fourth year. And the next thing you know, you've created a business that can give you 40 or 50 closings a year, just like clockwork every year, without you having to start over in January. You also want to make sure you're doing four client events annually. Do something in the spring. I used to give away Easter baskets. I cannot tell you how many people showed up to my office in Johns Creek to get their Easter bunny or their Easter Skittles or their Easter. I didn't realize I was killing everybody with food dye when I was giving away Skittles, but they would show up at the office and want to have their picture taken with me or their agent on the team with their Easter present. I don't get it, but they loved it. You can do something in the summer, a barbecue, a 4th of July activity, give away pies. You can do something in the fall where you're doing maybe pies, or you're doing something, an Oktoberfest or something like that, and then you need to be doing something in the winter. And these need to be all about them, not about you. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you or your team did any client events in the last year and you knew that you should have had more people show up to take advantage of the opportunity, it's because you didn't understand what was happening. It's not about you getting them close to you so you can manipulate them. It's about you getting them close enough to you so that you can serve them with a free pie, with free pictures of their kids with Santa Claus, whatever it is. It is not about you. It is only about them. And if you don't have energy around inviting people to a event, a client event, then I encourage you to really think about your purpose and who you're showing up as. Because in this case, I think you might have a little bit of a B problem, meaning I'm not showing up the way I need to. You also want to make sure that you're recognizing significant events like birthdays, home anniversaries, life events. Put reminders in your CRM. Never miss a meaningful moment. I mean, you send somebody a text, Ed, on their birthday, and it just says, "Happy birthday, Cleve." Ed, that will impact me, even if all you do is send me a text message. So let's make sure we're keeping up with all of these life events. And then when the relationship engine the relationship engine will break your cycle, because you should be in a position to do 50 to 70% of your business from Sphere. I want you guys to let that sink in for a minute. You should be in a position, if you do 50 closings a year, to have 35 of them come from your Sphere. You'll have higher profit margins because you have no referral fees. You have less cost. You can build predictable security for your income and build a business that actually continues to build on itself. Meaning what happened last year gets built on the next year and the year after. Let's jump into our fourth thing, which is build proprietary language for your business. This is the one that's probably going to be the hardest for everybody to implement in their business because you won't see the value of doing this. And that's okay. I understand it if you don't see the value. But eventually you need to see the value, because if you do not have proprietary language for your business is worth nothing. I'm going to go back and say that one more time. If you do not have proprietary language for your business is worth nothing. It'd be like saying, well, you don't have to have proprietary language. Well, yes, because Honda calls their car Hondas and BMW calls their car BMWs, but they do exactly the same thing. Well, no, they don't, Cleve. A BMW is very different than a Honda. A BMW is the ultimate driving machine, and a Honda is a reliable way to get you from here to there. Those are very, very specific proprietary language, and none of that happened by accident. It happened because that's who they tell us they are. So if you can't explain your value or what you're doing with clarity and using unique words, then you sound like everybody else. And remember, generic language, and this is one I want you to remember for next year. Generic language generates generic results. Generic meaning, well, maybe I'll take them, maybe I won't. If you sound like everybody else, you won't get the results that you want. You won't have the credibility or the impact. Clients will choose based on price. If I met with Adam and Adam says, hey, when you and I meet at the first house, I'm going to give you the Zach Team home buying blueprint. And then from that, we've got the exact 22-step Zach home buying success system. And we're going to use that specific system. Then I'm choosing you based on the services I think you're going to provide instead of based on the price you're going to charge me to do it. And Adam, that was the best no yawn for somebody who needed to yawn that I have ever seen. You controlled yourself. You controlled yourself great. And then if you don't have that differentiation, you're a commodity. And so people say, well, I'll give you excellent service. Well, everybody says that. I'm a local expert. I'll be available 24/7. I'll answer all the calls you have whenever you want. And then you're surprised when somebody calls you at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Well, I'm like, you're the one who caused it. I use the latest tech. Well, so what? Everybody else does. So if you get into proprietary language, you need to make sure that you have a very specific process for doing that. And I'll tell you, those of you who decide to go get the free resource at the end, I've created a document that I created just for this call, that I created only for people who are here. Nobody else is going to get it. That gives you a step-by-step framework for how you create proprietary language. It works because it makes your processes and systems that you use sound sophisticated and proven, and it creates curiosity and interest. I want to know more about what this Zach Team home buying blueprint is. I want to see that. What is that? It's easier to remember and refer. I'm going to send you over to Adam. He uses this system and that one, and it positions you as the expert. So remember, if you can name it, you can claim it. And if you can claim it, you can charge for it. So if you want to stop being treated like everyone else, then stop being everyone else. Because in most cases, they're treating you like everyone else because they think you are just like everyone else. So the system that you want to use is, these are just examples. If you had a follow-up system, you could call your follow-up system the threat elimination system, meaning we're using this system to follow up with you. And our whole goal is to take things that are threats that are caused by something outside of your control and to put you in the driver's seat, basically. For the listing process, we could call it the maximum exposure marketing protocol. For buyer onboarding, we could call it a buyer market reality session. For a communication cadence, we're going to do emotional transformation communication with you. We're going to make sure we understand exactly how you're feeling about what's going on. And then the negotiating philosophy, we're going to call it our second chance strategy. We use the exclusive second chance strategy for our negotiation. And let me tell you a little bit about how that works. Market reality session. Let's meet so I can show you some homes and see what you like. Nope. Before we look at properties, I conduct what's called a market reality session. We'll align your wish list with current market conditions, discuss financing strategies, and create a game plan so you don't waste time on homes that won't work. Fair enough? One sounds like something I want, the other sounds like everybody else. Let's do just a second little version. If we don't get the offer we want, we'll counter offer. Well, no, I employ what's called the second chance strategy. If the initial offer doesn't meet your goals, I'll structure a counter offer that gives the other party a clear path to yes while protecting your bottom line and timeline. How would you like to get what you want and make the other side feel like they're getting what they want, Janice? That's the second chance strategy that does that. And it's our proprietary system. So I would not say this to you, but if you want it, the only place you can get it is from me. And I'll bet you everybody on this session, and there's still 70 people or 70 some odd people on here. I'll bet you everybody has unique things about them, the way they give service that make them unique. And I will bet you in many cases, you're the only person who knows that it's unique. I was talking to a lender the other day, and the lender says, I already do that. I already do that. I already do that. I said, great. How many people know you do it? None. That's the problem. You're already doing it. You're giving them the systems. Now name the systems and start to sell the systems. And so I'm going to give you a process for creating proprietary language. You got to list your key processes. You got to identify what's unique about them. Then you brainstorm names for the system and have fun. And with ChatGPT, oh my gosh, you can review 100 names that fast. Then you create an explanation of the system and you start using it consistently. Julie will know whether or not she's using proprietary language correctly because she'll catch herself forgetting to use it. And once she starts to catch herself forgetting to use it, then she'll know she's starting to do the right things because she's starting to remember that she needs to stop calling it a pre-buyer walkthrough and instead call it the 100% confidence pre-closing walkthrough, because that is something very, very different. And proprietary language can break the cycle of I got to start over every year because it gives unique value. It talks about your methodologies and your experience. If you listen to anybody selling anything online, they say, I'm going to show you my proven framework. And people love the word framework because it says you're going to give me the step-by-step instruction manual for what I need to be doing to make the right decisions as I move forward. You'll get specific referrals from people who are looking for that specific position, the system, and you'll get premium positioning, meaning we do more. Well, you might not do more, but it seems like you do more because you have proprietary language. In other words, you're the only agent they've talked to that actually does what you say you're going to do. The last piece is you got to install financial management and controls. Yawn, 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 boring. Nope. This is really what's missing in most people's lives in general. And if you sit there for 1 second and think, you know what, my financial picture is not today the way I would like it to be, then I'm going to venture a guess that you do not have budgeting, financial management, and controls in place, and that you weren't intentional about how much money you were going to have when you were 65, when you were 25. Because money does not make everything better, but money makes all of the problems we have to deal with in life easier. I've had many stressful things that I've had to deal with my daughters. And if I had to, Julie, be worrying about where my next paycheck was coming from, I would not have been able to give them the time and focus and attention that they needed. So most agents fail to grow because they don't run their business like a business. They run it like a market they're riding on, and it doesn't work for them. So when you start to put clear financial controls in there, you need to have a profit and loss statement at least every single month for your business. At a minimum, you need to do that. You need to put a budget in place. A lot of agents I don't think I've ever seen a group of people who make more money and have less money than real estate agents. I see people who've been in the business for 30 years that have been making $500,000 a year. They couldn't retire today to save their life. It's because they spent 525,000 and every one of those years they made 500. And all you got to do is make 500 and spend 250. These people can't, they are under constant stress. They can't scale the business and grow it because they have cash flow problems. They have a bad month and it feels like everything is done. If you don't have a feeling of stability when you start to have a bad month, it's because all of these things we've talked about are missing. And everybody has this need to feel financially secure, but very few of us ever get there. So here's what you need to do. You need to create and follow a budget. You need to look at the last 12 months expenses. You need to categorize them. You need to identify anything you're spending that's waste. I realized that I had been spending $500 per month on my mobile phone bill for 4 years, and that the bill should have been more like $250 or $280. Now, Adam, I'd like to have that money back, but it is gone. and is gone because I wasn't paying attention to the details. You also should set really specific percentages. So I would love to think that every dollar that rolls in, X percentage of it, Julie's going to take it off the top and put it over into her savings account. She's going to take another X percentage and put it over into her retirement account. And Julie's saying, well, what? I hadn't put anything in a retirement account. No, we're going to got to fix that. And so every dollar, think about this, has a job before you earn it. You can't let your dollars decide what they're going to do after you get them. You have to tell them what to do before you get them. You got to create a no surprise spending rule. If it's more than $100, that's fine. You can do it, but wait 48 hours. If you're going to spend money for something in your real estate business, what's the expected return? If I spend $1,000, how much am I going to make, and how long do I have to do it? And if I don't do it, I'm going to stop doing it. And you got to do real-time tracking, and that's why you have to really keep up with what's going on, and you need those financials once a month. And this is one of the biggest keys is you need to build a 3-month reserve fund. Real estate is seasonal. You got to make sure you have enough money to pay your bills, your operating expenses, or your living expenses for 3 months. It needs to be saved in a separate account, or you need to have a minimum threshold in your actual account. And most people who do that start by setting aside 10, 15, whatever percentage is of their commission to say, my expenses are $10,000 a month. I'm going to save 10% of my commissions until I save $30,000. And I'm going to have $30,000 in my reserve fund. And the cool thing is today you can put that in an online FDIC insured savings account and make almost 5% interest on your money. That's not going to last forever, but you could do that today. So you put some overalls on your money and get it out there and get it to work. So remember, when you have clear financial controls, you have clear visibility, you understand whether or not you're making money, you plan your spending in advance, you are proactive about your taxes. Have you ever owed some taxes and gone, oh my God, I didn't know I was going to owe that many taxes? Well, anybody could have figured it out. You knew the numbers in October, you could have figured it out. And reserves or having some assets that you have access to give you a feeling of security. When that seller is just about to fire you as their listing agent, it is a much bigger deal when you have no reserves and no gap between you and falling over the cliff. It's very, very stressful. So we talked about today, we've got to master our CRM. We have to humanize our follow-up. We have to build our relationship engine. We have to create proprietary language, and we have to put in place financial controls, because these things together, they really build momentum so that 2026 builds on 25, 27 on 26, and you keep on going from there. And my hope for you is that you'll break the cycle. You'll break the cycle of feeling like you're starting over, that you'll get some momentum that actually feels like it's compounding, meaning this year it was 10 referrals, next year is 30 referrals. Oh my gosh, that's growing. Yeah, but you've worked on it for 2 years. You deserve for it to grow. That you can have a predictable pipeline and a feeling of sustainable growth, and you can work smarter with those systems. And smarter means not kill yourself working, but invest just the time that you need to in order to get the results that you're looking for. And my real ultimate goal is for you to be able to have confidence and stability. Your choices are you can keep doing what you've been doing, and you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. Or you can implement these new 5 pillars in your life, in your business, in your personal life, and you can change the way things work. So here's my thoughts for you in terms of what you need to do moving forward. Week 1, I suggest you do a CRM audit. Week 2, I suggest you work on your follow-up framework, and it needs to be dialed in and committed to. Week number 3, you work on your relationship engine. And then week number 4, I say you work on your languaging and financing. If you don't have a copy of this, take a picture of it with your phone if you want to. But don't worry, if you go download the free resources, you'll get a full copy of every single one of these slides. You'll get it in your inbox. The promise for you is that if you implement these 5 pillars, you will never feel like you're starting over again. You got to commit to choosing one pillar to focus on first, implementing it fully, and then staying consistent no matter what. And as we come to the close of the presentation, here's the free resources. Those of you who are current Workman clients, you've never seen the ABCs of lead management like the one you're going to download, because this is not just the ABCs of lead management. It's called the cadence and purpose of follow-up. It was written by me exclusively for my clients. We've been using it for years. And some of my teams that do 300 and 400 and 500 million a year in closings, it's because they use the cadence and purpose of follow up the ABCs. I've prepared for you all of these three other documents. You are the only group that will ever get a copy of these documents. Now, others might get something that's similar, but it will never be the same ones for you today. I put together a guide for you on humanizing follow up that you can use to train your people, on creating a proprietary language framework. In other words, how do you create your proprietary language, and creating your financial controls roadmap, and a bonus. And I put it in PDF format so all of you could have it. You all have my permission to use these slides for however you want to. You can get a full copy of the presentation. We have used every single second of 60 minutes for a webinar. I hope all of you have gotten a ton of good information. Regardless of what you celebrate this time of year, I wish you an amazingly happy holiday season. And I most of all wish for you a 2026 that builds clearly on 2025 and starts the process where you have a feeling of security and stability in 27, 28, 29, and 30. Fair enough? Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.